All right, everybody. Welcome back. Hope you enjoyed lunch. You are in our Track A room. This is Workshop 7. And it is my pleasure to introduce our panel here. This is going to be an interactive workshop. It's out of the Toolbag into the app, building a modern workforce of elite technicians through technology. Topic we hear a lot about. Glad to have our experts and practitioners up here to chat with you guys. So we'll keep you alive, we'll keep you awake, we'll get the questions flowing. And it's my pleasure to introduce the moderator, Stuart Werner. Please welcome Stuart and the rest of the gang.
I would be a lot cooler if my name was Stuart Werner, but this is actually Stuart Werner here. So we sat in the wrong spots. Apologies. I had to have this laptop. Hey guys, Aaron Salow, CEO and founder of XOI. Excited to be here. I know you guys all just got off lunch, so we're going to keep this exciting to push past the afternoon slump, I hope. Let's go ahead and do some introductions. And another adjustment, Rod Cook would also be looking a lot different here, as you can tell. Rod had a personal family thing that he had to attend to. And so this is Kiri Leibold, XOI's Director of Enterprise Customer Success, and she'll be joining us here today. I'll let you introduce yourself, and we'll go on down the line.
Awesome. Thanks, Aaron. As Aaron said, I'm Kiri. I'm the Director of Enterprise Customer Success at XOI. I've had the pleasure of working with these gentlemen as well as our other large enterprise customers through implementation, deployment, as well as retention with XOI over the last almost 3 years. So really excited to kind of share the experiences of what I've seen across our customer portfolio alongside Joe and Stu here.
Joe.
And I'm Joe Lang. I'm VP of Service Technology and Innovation at Comfort Systems. We are a national mechanical contractor in the HVAC, heating, ventilation, and air conditioning space.
And I expect you to show off your socks later if you can, too.
Yeah, I'm not a customer.
Good, Stu.
So I'm Stu Werner. I was up here a little earlier, so I've been in the industry for a little over 40 years, and I'm with Daikin, North America, and we've been working with XOI now for a couple of years.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Excited to chat with you. Just kind of introing this session and what we're going to talk about. It's adjusted a bit, and I think it's going to continue to focus on what we care deeply about, what I've learned a lot from these guys on stage, which is the technician. Said another way, I was thinking about this morning. Growing up in Michigan, about as blue collar as they come, I remember my dad saying, my dad had seen some success. We kind of went from like food stamps and government housing to where he became an entrepreneur and seen some success, and he bought a nice car. And I said, Dad, how did you hook me up? Right, I'm 15 years old. And he's like, great. Whatever you can hook yourself up with is what you're going to get because you got to work for it. The only thing is, it has to be a stick, and you have to work on it yourself. And I said, gosh, what? I have to buy it? I have to do it? He goes, well, yeah, I mean, that's what you do when you grow up in Michigan. You work on stuff yourself. And what those people were called was a derogatory word back then. And this is kind of framing how the bubble I grew up in, but they were called shop rats. Anyone ever heard that term before? Someone who worked in a shop rat? Yep. I'm getting some nods. He was told that at a young age and said, hey, you're just going to be a shop rat in your life. I think the skilled trades gap we have today is reminiscent of some of those attitudes. And he took that as a chip on his shoulder, and he actually created a foundation, if you guys get a chance to look at it, called the Shop Rat Foundation, where thousands and thousands of kids are trained every summer now on these skills. But it's a broader topic, and that I see this lack of engagement with the people that are the heartbeat of this industry. And so this panel of people are people who years ago have identified that man and that woman on site as the most important stakeholder. And they've invested in that stakeholder. And for me, it's great to see all the companies here that are invested in that stakeholder. I think more than ever before, they're realizing like the job site's important. What we do with the men and women that do these jobs, the assets on these job sites are really important. And I think if you look at technology the last 20 years, we haven't seen a lot of that. And so I'm excited to talk through more about how shop rats and skilled trades people should be praised, should be taken care of, should be engaged with in terms of technology and what we're doing to really change that. What that all alludes to is a framework that we've worked on with these guys that we kind of call the job site or the final mile framework. And so what that looks like, and you can change the slide to that piece is looking at kind of 4 steps as we're engaging techs in the field. So all the questions we asked for from the audience and what we're going to be talking about today is going to kind of take this 4-step approach. Number 1, engagement. Data sets can be created by engaging technicians in the field. That has to be engaging. You hear me say things about continuous and episodic quite a bit. Continuous tools being much more desirable than episodic. That's going to create data. That data is going to create insights. And I would say the 4th thing, being just as hard as number 1, is re-engagement. How many people have seen a lot of pretty data and a lot of pie charts and then don't know what to do with it? I think it's a challenge for everybody, right? You're looking at this data going, how do I engage, especially a user in the field? They didn't take this job to be, to be thrown technology on and be interacting with apps all day long. And so we're going to talk about this framework as part of this panel. We've learned a lot of this from customers like Joe and Stu and others. This is really how we believe that field service organizations, from OEMs to distributors to field service contractors themselves, build elite technicians. So, getting started here, and we can just leave that slide up. Let's talk about engagement. How many applications, a show of hands in the audience, and want answers too, how many applications do you think technicians are using on a job site, any given job site on a daily basis? 6 or 7? It comes from familiar people I know that have done some good research on that. That's good. Any other? What's your assumption on how many applications technicians are using in the field? Six to 10? That's right. Yeah, and so almost every interaction we've ever had, someone goes, well, I bought this one thing, fill in the blank, field service management solution, or I had this other point solution. One or two. When you start spending time with technicians in the field, you quickly find that's not true. We'll start with Kiri and kind of sharing experiences there around engagement, and what are you hearing in terms of the average number of applications and your experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. So you guys are kind of spot on. Through our research, we found that on average, there's 9 different apps that a tech is using throughout the day. I've even had customers say upwards of 20, which is kind of crazy to think about. You're like, wait, how did this even happen? But you have coding tools, you have your FSM, you have safety tools, you have random apps that the tech decides to download, right, for them to use throughout the day. And so we continue to struggle and say, how do we engage the tech in the right place? And the idea is creating a single pane of glass, and it's something that Aaron talks about a lot, and it's bringing the technician into one tool through integrations or other ways that we can really focus in so the tech can stay efficient in one place on the job site. We find that from one of our biggest customers who does this really well is they have focused in through integrations, being able to show, all right, I'm going to do safety, I'm going to do work performed, I'm going to do quoting, I'm going to do all of this in one place, and this has allowed for them over the last couple of years to really improve engagement across all of their technicians because we're reducing the pain points that the tech is dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
Joe, I know that that's been a big point for you as well as you think about kind of consolidation, hub and spoke, if you will. Tell us more about how you've attacked that problem.
Yeah, so technicians by design want to go solve issues, and they will grab any tool that they can find that will help them with that. And that's great. They're resourceful, and they should be. We expect them to be. But what you find is they're going in and out and in and out, and they'll have 4 or 5 apps open, and hang on just a second. And so we kind of took an approach of let's not take away their apps, but let's put the information in one place so they can seamlessly go in and out. And so we've worked really hard on integrations with our ERP FSMs and with other components with our other partners to just make sure that a technician starts in one place and they end in the same place, and everything else kind of feeds in and out. And it's given them the ability to accomplish their job without getting lost and without having places and information in all kinds of dissimilar places.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the biggest lesson that we've learned over time is you got to ask the question and spend the time. And I think a lot of times sitting in an office managing a team, there's assumptions that are made. And when you get in the field and actually sit in the field with technicians, you go, hey, what did you just open that for? Oh, that's my rec form thing. That's my safety form thing. That's how I do quotes for this particular customer or this task list or whatever the case may be. And you start to understand how many touch points they have and go, wow, there's a ton of wasted time happening here. And it's not that any one company is going to have all-in-one solution, but certainly there's some advantages to tying those pieces together. Stu, what's been your experience in terms of engaging your team? A little bit different. You know, you obviously have guys that are going in the field and supporting. You have a central call center that's supporting folks in the field.
So with a lot of our customers are calling into our call center looking for help throughout the week, and they are finding that the call center is busy really in the summertime, and they may be on hold for a little bit of period of time before they can get to somebody that can help them out. And with COVID going on, I couldn't send my other technicians out to the field very, very easily. So we used XOI as the platform for them to get help on what they needed. And our call center would actually bring them up on XOI on the platform and use that as their tool to help them get their problem solved that they were trying to figure out.
Yeah.
So it's worked out really well for us from a remote capacity standpoint.
Yeah, for sure. Good. So engagement's critical, and I think as you think about episodic tools that your technicians may be using, whether you're delivering that through an OEM, through a distributor, how can you create technician trust? One thing that you hear us talk about quite a bit, earning technician trust earns you market share. If you let that really seep in, you start to look at your business completely differently. And once you have that engagement, and once you are solving those problems, it creates a kind of unparalleled data set. What would you guys say, and this is back to the audience, what is the most critical challenge in getting consistent data out of the field? Lack of process, yeah.
That's a good one.
Time, yeah. Running and gunning, yeah, especially seasonally, depending on what your business is, for sure. Yeah. What's in it for me? Yeah. All right. Yeah, agree. The feedback from Texas, no one's looking at it anyway. That's right. Yeah. Expectations. Yeah. There's what I think kind of flows through a lot of those answers is human. It's human nature, right? Who's looking at this anyway? I'm too busy. What are the expectations? Well, one of the more interesting things that we've found, and I say this to customers all the time, is that good technicians care more about what their customers think than what their boss thinks. Mm-hmm. And so in terms of engagement, in leveraging those expectations and why it matters and why I'm taking the time. If the customer, this is not leveraged nearly enough in technology, and I promise not to soapbox too much about this. I want to hear you guys' perspective too. If you can't engage the end customer in value, and all I hear is my boss hammering me about something, they're just not going to do it. XOI started with smart glasses. We put thousands of smart glasses out in the world when we thought that was a good idea and realized we were a little too cute. And it was really funny because technicians were kind of like, oops, I ran it over with my van again. And we were like, wow, this guy's ran over 3 pairs of smart glasses. He was tired of it. He didn't want to use it. It was a pain in the ass. He's on a 110-degree roof on his 8th job trying to power up a set of smart glasses, right? Lots of great use cases for smart glasses, in our markets anyway, tough. So in terms of data, Joe, let's kind of start with you on this question. How do you think about getting meaningful data from the field? Where have you made maybe a mistake or two and adjusted accordingly?
Yeah, so there's a couple of threads there, and one of them is about having people believe the data. So we went to the source of the data, which is what the technicians put into the system through the work order system. So if they want to disbelieve it, they wrote it. We didn't. So that was one of the starts. And then the other thing that really was kind of like a game changer for us is just being able to use the OCR platform to snap a data plate, get information about it, and add it to our knowledge database that we've built out. One of the things that shocked me, and I never would have guessed this, but we don't manufacture. We're not like Stu, who manufactures a brand of equipment with, I don't know, several hundred, maybe 1,000 model numbers. Right now in our system and knowledge database, last count, we had 733 manufacturers and about a little over 30,000 different model numbers. And so when I start thinking about that, it's like if I can't manage this data and continue to add to it, it would overwhelm you. But this has really helped us get through that very effectively, and it's made the data believable and influential for the technicians. So when they see something in their app that's telling them this is how you fix this, they believe it. Because 2,400 other technicians probably touched it and helped them develop that solution to it.
Yeah. Yeah, there's not nearly enough firms that are weaponizing their scale like Comfort Systems, like Daikin is. And that is, when you talk about tacit tribal knowledge being the core of the skilled trades gap, it's incredible to me how many businesses are not weaponizing the scale they have to say, hey, I've answered this question 672 times already. I should be able to deliver this effectively and build something pretty special as a result. And so, that's great. Kiri, talk to me a little bit about your experiences with enterprise field service organizations when it comes to data.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think it's wrapping back into kind of what you said with engagement, right? And the most successful customers that I've seen leveraging this is saying, okay, we've solved for getting our technicians to have one kind of source of truth. So we're bringing all those systems together, so we're collecting the data. It starts with data, right? We find that a lot of companies don't have good data today. I have one customer who told us that we only knew about 3% of our assets in the field. 3%, guys. So when you start to focus in and engage with your techs, you start collecting that data in a really meaningful way. And I know Aaron's going to talk about insights in a second, but you have to start by collecting it. We had one customer over the last year, is about 2,500 to 3,000 techs in the field. They were able to, through consistency and engagement, do about 300,000 jobs with our technology, collected over 400,000 assets that they may not have seen before, had information on. That resulted also in 1.8 million pieces of visual content on the job site. Visualization that they didn't have before. In return, they also calculated, because they were able to do that and start collecting this in a streamlined manner, that they had an ROI of about 13.6 million from just 12 months, guys, of being able to streamline those processes and start gathering that information to better understand what's happening in the field.
Yeah, and when you hit the WIFM for the technician, that type of usage is possible. Because to them, it's maybe not the customer experience, although that matters, it's the cover their butt. It's the, I don't like the office people telling me I didn't get information, right? They're getting a call from the person in the office going, how do I build $12,000 for I came and fixed it? Give me more data than that. You know, and I'm getting chuckles because you guys have been in those situations. And so they start to acknowledge that value, and then all of a sudden it's there. Stu, what are your thoughts? I think, you know, for you, just to kind of give you one to tee up, I think about your field service folks that are going and flying on site in some cases for your customers, and the ability to grab that tribal tacit information as well as a learning method for everyone else in your team.
Well, so that when they get there, if the data's been pulled already by the techs from our dealers, so to speak, it's a lot easier to get into what was going on. I was chuckling a little bit earlier because a lot of times we'll get on the phone with the customer and we'll say, well, we need the model and serial number. I says, what do you need that for? I says, well, that tells us everything we need to know to figure out where we're starting from. But it's something as simple as that, and we can capture that very easily. It gets captured now, whereas before it was not necessarily written down.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So again, engaging the technician with continuous versus episodic use cases, that's going to create rich data sets like the ones you're hearing about here. Then how do we kind of make insights out of that? What does that turn into real insights? I'd love to hear examples from the audience. What insights have you been gathering from the field that has really changed your business? And I'll give you one example while you're thinking about it. We're doing some really interesting analysis around certifications around technicians and the efficacy of certified technicians on site. And so it's really interesting to say, whatever certification you want to choose, what does this actually do for a tech on site against a certain asset? So if I am NATE certified in the HVAC industry, am I replacing that condenser, compressor, whatever, you know, that braze job, whatever that I needed to do in that particular unit in 2 hours and 12 minutes versus 3 hours and 11 minutes, or whatever the case may be? What does that mean? And how do I adjust my training methodologies as a result? Those are interesting insights when a technician is documenting everything on site, getting relevant information, getting diagnostic support that we can really use. Another example is any anyone fly planes in here? It's a random question. Any pilots? Raise a hand. No? Just do. That's it. And when you fly, you do something called proficiency versus currency. So currency, of course, is, am I legal? Will the FAA let me take you up in a plane? Proficiency is like, am I safe? So one of the interesting things we've learned is when you analyze technicians' effectiveness against certain assets, you can start to document, are they proficient or are they current? So, man, I'm really good at train blank, 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 Daikin blank, 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 carrier blank, 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 because I've been working on it a lot, and I have a certain effectiveness as a technician because look at my digital resume as a result. And so whether it's dispatch, whether it's not even sending the best person, but maybe the second and third best person, again, the insights coming from the job site are really important. So audience-wise, what comes to mind? What have you learned about the job site for whatever platforms you're leveraging, or maybe just good old surveys or something more simple than that, that's allowed you to change your business?
It's quiet.
This is the post-lunch. Yeah. Yeah, how often they're seeing certain types of disciplines, how effective they are at those things. Yeah, absolutely. Make adjustments as a result. Any other thoughts about insights collected from the job site? I got the post-lunch tired, huh? I get it. Joe, you want to jump in on this one?
Yeah, so, yes?
No. Do we?
Oh,
Awesome. So time, just repeating for everyone, so time on location, building training materials, educational materials as a result. Awesome. That's fantastic. Mr. Lang?
yeah, so that's probably one of the bigger opportunities that we have found utilizing this data. For people like Stu, Daikin is one of the pieces of equipment we install hundreds, maybe thousands a year, similar equipment from different manufacturers. We are also starting to find some of the manufacturers have better equipment than others because of things like how we can do the first time fix on it. Time to resolution's a big one. Some of them take longer. The complexity of some of the equipment. Sometimes we can take it back to even finding out that what was happening is we didn't do the proper training, or the training that we got from a manufacturer maybe wasn't as strong as it could be. So there's a lot of different correlations that you can make out of this. The most important thing is getting the data by asset so that the correlation is defendable, because if, again, going back to a technician, if that data and that information doesn't resonate with them or they don't believe it, they're never going to adopt the other platforms that you may want to bring on to continue to help them. So then it doesn't become a tool, it becomes a hindrance or another, piece of stuff that the office wants. And so those are the things that the insights have really helped us a lot with.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you can engage that many stakeholders on simple use cases like that, what you get out of that is an immense amount of data and insights. A lot of this, obviously, we've all been hearing about generative AI out of our noses, right? On everything that can happen with it. A lot of these large language models, a lot of what's possible for the future is built on this kind of data. And if you were to tell a bunch of technicians, hey, we're going to build generative AI, that's why I want you to take content in the field, you'd get two birds. If the customer goes, Joe, this is awesome. Sally, this is great. Thank you. I covered my butt. I gave people in the office what they need. The customer's happy. All of a sudden, I'm doing it every day. All of a sudden, I look back at a data set, which is what's happening for our customers now, going, what I can do with this data is light years ahead what everyone else is forced to do with public data at this point. Because I've got symptom issue resolution becomes pretty compelling. So great call out. Kiri, insights?
Yeah, so I'm going to go back to really talking about how we're building the elite technician. And I think somebody said in the audience earlier that techs don't want to use a lot of these tools because they don't think we're going to do anything with it.
Yeah.
Right? Why should I be out there collecting data? Because what's the point, right? And I was having a conversation actually with Rod. We did about a week or so ago, and he made the comment that really stuck with me. And he said the worst thing that we could do as manufacturers or contractors is invest in technology and resources and then fail to use it. You're putting stuff into the tech's hands, and then there's nothing that's coming out of it, right? And so the importance here is making sure that the techs are seeing that return. And you guys have talked about a couple of ways that's happened, but specifically something that has stuck with me is we have a customer in the greater Northeast who they look at everything that the technician is capturing through the aggregates of data of what are they seeing on site, and they're cross-referencing that against the models and serial numbers that they're coming across in the field, and they're using that information in their one-on-ones with technicians and in their business development moments too. So where are you excelling, Mr. Technician, out in the field, or where do we have opportunities? Maybe you're not as familiar with this train or Daikin or whatever it is, and they're able to talk with them one-on-one and saying, we see this, we're going to invest in more training. We're going to invest in more resources, the right resources, to make sure that you can continue to be the best tech, the elite tech out in the field. And it's happening through technology that is allowing that tech to do that. And then they start to see why they should be engaging and collecting in the data, because they are getting the personal benefit from it.
Yeah, and this is just, guys, with or without XY or anyone else, this is just opportunity that exists when you engage the technician on a job site. That same client reduced their kind of annual insurance burden by like 800 grand because they were using the platform to prove PPE, safety protocol, pre-test safety planning, and their insurance business was like, if we can see this and we have access to this feed, we're willing to give you a lower insurance rate. It's massive. And so again, the opportunity on the job site and building towards the future is huge. Stu, I wanted to kind of tee you up on one of the bigger projects that we're working on. We were kind of surfacing from the field some of the static pressure testing installation stuff, and interesting like what the manufacturer says and what technicians really do. How important are insights like that to a manufacturer and how you do quality, how you train, those types of opportunities?
Well, so we get back, static pressure is a good one. We give back information on static pressure that said it was different than what we're actually finding. Mm-hmm. And we're asking for the information through your XOI.
Yep.
And it's not coming back to us as what we were told it was, and obviously there's something not right. Either we're getting information that wasn't correct to start with, or there's something wrong with the duct system to make it higher than it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So call it a truth serum, I guess, is what you can. But we're going to get the real information back from the field, not what somebody wants us to hear, kind of thing.
Yeah, you think about the power of the delivery of, adjusting installation instructions, having faster service bulletins, being able to make a better product. By the time those things filter up to organizations like yours, it can be months or years, right?
Yeah, depending on the severity of it, you're absolutely correct. I mean, that's what workflows can be created from.
Mm-hmm. Agree. Yeah, we had the opportunity to sit down. I think leveraging. I know depending on the OEM and the relationships people have, if you're an OEM or you use OEMs, there could be different levels of attitude you may have towards those interactions. So people, I wait on hold all the time with so and so, or these guys are great, or these guys aren't. The reality is these boxes are the core of our industry. And whether your asset is something different, we work a lot in MEP, but it's something different. It's mission critical. It's important that you can leverage the insights coming from those boxes, those assets, to make better techs, to make better original equipment manufacturers, to enhance your distribution. And these insights can really help us do that. All right, so moving on to the final, and again, I think it's the hard work is in the sandwich, or on the buns of the sandwich. It's engagement, right? Getting technicians to use it on every job. And then how do we take all these great things and re-engage? I'll give you kind of one example of how we've looked at it. When we built OCR modeling, it was because people in the office complained they never got make, model, serial. And so we were like, hey, how do we engage the technician in a really interesting way that's fast, and over time, kind of tens of millions of pictures a day, plates later, we've gotten really good at that. But we use that to re-engage the tech, and that journeyman pushes them information about that asset, starts to give them diagnostic information. And so I love talking about technicians, like for the cost of a picture or a drop-down equipment list, we're kind of delivering you this information. That's an example of re-engagement. And the reason I bring that up is it's the only thing I know. I'm too dumb to talk about anything else. But it needs to be that simple, right? The re-engagement needs to be that simple. If there needs to be, and at the same time also, deliverable in a way that's not going to ruin technician trust immediately. I think some of the concerns I see around a lot of this AI and a lot of what's happening, completely transformative. It's a Gutenberg press. It's going to be unbelievable. It's also like, hey, we're going to give a guy a HoloLens. Gen AI is going to solve the problem for them. And I'm like, great. Have you gone on the field with a technician recently? They just got a smartphone this year. You're going to strap a $3,000 HoloLens on them and use this to do that? Like, okay, depending on the industry, that's possible. So I think we have to take incremental steps as well, right, to provide value that guys and gals in the field go, oh, this works. This makes sense. Joe, talk to me about re-engagement on your side, how you think about kind of taking engagement, the data, the insights, and re-engaging field staff.
So that's a really great, and it's a big topic, but one of the things we've learned is that the definition of a great technician is different today than it used to be. It used to be the great technician that could fix anything. Well, with 733 manufacturers, we don't have technicians that can fix anything. So the re-engagement comes back around when what you do is give the technician the resources that allows them to be successful in front of the customer. Customers have changed as well. They don't expect everybody to know everything, but they do expect to have a good experience. And so the customer's definition of a good technician has changed to where it's the technician that can find the answers and get them implemented, not that they know it off the top of their head. So that re-engagement comes of taking all this data and information and giving it to a technician in a manner that they can fix or solve an issue, and they can do it right the first time. So we, as an organization, improve our first-time fix, but the technician, it comes from them getting to look like a hero in front of their customer, because ultimately that's what they want to do. So it's when you combine all those that it becomes a really, really powerful engagement for the technician. And the end result is when you do that successfully, your retention of those technicians starts to skyrocket, because everybody's in a crunch with, talent. There's the talent wars and everything. Well, step number one in winning is quit letting your good technicians get away. So when you build this, they can't get this at other competitors for us. And so they like being the expert, they like the technology, and they like doing a good job and a great job for their customer, and we allow them to do that. And so that's not something they get at some of the other places that they can go get $2 more or $5 more or whatever, but they get frustrated. That's a short-term windfall for them. Mm-hmm. And then they go back to, I'm frustrated, can't find the manual, can't get this, don't know anything about that. There was a service bulletin on this. It would have been nice to know, all those kinds of things. So we try and put all that at their fingertips.
Kiri?
Yeah, Joe is 100% right. It's one of the things I talk about a lot is giving the technicians the right technology at the right time, right? There's a lot of things out there that can do a bunch of fancy things, and I see a lot of companies often fail to start because they want to go with all the bells and whistles out the gate and hand techs, all these amazing things, and it's like, oh, hang on. Crawl, walk, run. So the idea behind this re-engagement, right, is just saying, okay, we have gotten some base level engagement from our technicians. This is how you win, right? Base level engagement. We're learning from the techs now, And how then do I take what we're learning and dig in and refine and then give a little bit more, right? Whether it be XOI through workflow improvements that we can dig in, because now we know what's happening on the job site. We understand where our biggest issues are. So now let me go and dig in a little bit more to get more prescriptive. So it's really about taking that slow approach and making sure that you are growing with the technicians so they're not afraid of the technology and they continue to adopt and grow with it. So it's important to take that framework, and then as we look at the future with AI, Aaron, you kind of brought this up, right? We talk about generative AI, we talk about Chat GPT, all of these amazing things that are coming down the pipe, and we're investing in it as well. We have work summaries that are coming out here in the next several months, and we have a customer that is psyched to go ahead and get that going, and they're prepared to be able to leverage that new feature because they have gone about the crawl, walk, run. So they prepared their technicians, they're successful with the tool they're adopting. So now they're saying, when this comes out, we're ready to rock and roll with this. The techs are going to adopt it. It's going to keep our techs efficient. They're not going to be spending all this time running out big work summaries or writing, hey, unit was running, leave me alone, right? They can focus on fixing the equipment. ChatGPT is going to create these work summaries for them, saving them time, keeping them focused. And this customer, I think, is anticipating $6 million the first year in waste reduction by just being able to leverage this piece of it, right? But they wouldn't even be prepared to do this or even know what kind of savings they were going to have if they haven't been looking at the data and adopting and slowly evolving with the tool and the technology over time.
That's an example of simple, accretive value without going, hey, and this stuff's moving quick. I could be proven wrong tomorrow. But it's like, hey, we've got a bot that's going to talk you through it all, Mr. Technician.
Yep.
As soon as someone gets the wrong answer once, they're never picking it up again.
That's right.
Right? Because if you guys have ever worked with technicians or been a technician, one wrong answer. My team was playing around with some of this stuff. We were like, hey, we don't have a Wikipedia page. We should create one. They said, hey, Aaron has a history as a naval officer. I do not, but that's what ChatGPT said, right? And so these things has nuance. And certainly, anytime that I had a sailor outfit for Halloween, I don't want that resurfacing, but I certainly was not a naval officer. But, as an example, you give a technician who's sweating on their 8th job of the day, the wrong answer, they're going to chuck that thing and never use it. So work summary, you got to go, really? Work summary? That doesn't sound exciting. That's a massive help for a tech. And we're continuing to focus on ways that we're going to deliver those type of insights that are incremental, valuable, and trusted out of the gate, because that's how you build that trust. Stu, what are your thoughts on re-engagement?
So anytime you can go to one app to find most of the information they need, which they can do through XOI, and we actually built an app for our own called Daikin Tech Hub that we incorporated into XOI to make XOI the gateway to the information they need. Yep. Anytime you can do that and make it easier, I think we keep them re-engaged.
It's a great example of a point solution that didn't have the usage that you would have liked, because a technician goes, oh yeah, I got to go log into that thing when I have a problem. And that's what, if you guys kind of look through the lens of a lot of technology right now, it's when this happens, then this, and you're like 4 or 5 steps into when I'm going to open this application, your chances of usage is really low. Versus I'm in this app every day and it's dialed into anything I may need at any given time. I think that approach, and that's an example of it, delivers value.
So manuals, just getting the manuals is a lot easier to find rather than go through what we have as a website where you got to put a username and password in.
Yeah. It comes back to the earning tech trust earns market share, and that's for any business. OEMs are realizing it. We talked to a couple different partners of ours, for example, legal departments, right? We're not going to put installation workflows out there because someone's going to install it a certain way, say that we approved it, and we're going to get sued. That's starting to lift because they're realizing warranty costs, support wait times, things of that nature. They've got to get that stuff out in the field. They understand that technicians are going to go back to the office and go, buy more of this. It's a way better experience. And those people in the office, they're going to buy what the technicians tell them to buy in our world, right? Because they want to keep them, because there's a skilled trades gap and there's a challenge, and they're not going to say, yeah, but these guys have a 3% better pricing. And the tech's like, yeah, but it's a huge pain in the ass. I don't want to deal with that anymore. Well, OEMs are realizing that, field service organizations are realizing that, and as a result, it's, I think, an incredibly awesome time for technicians and technology in the job site. Any other thoughts from the crowd on re-engagement, ways you've seen engagement in the field really work, things that you want to share? If not, we can absolutely move to questions. Yeah.
So we introduced an application that you could just scan the QR codes, and they'll get the part number and serial number of the old part, and then you scan the new one, part number, serial number, and that just all embeds and it automatically updates the system.
Yeah.
And that saves lots of time in the field.
Yeah, agree. The tribal knowledge and the parts, I mean, those are the two big kind of cornerstones of the field for sure. Yep.
Is warehouse management, right? Having parts on hand at the right time, critical parts, right? With this data that you receive, and then you have the insights to see what parts are being used, where it's being used. You can drive your warehouse system to make sure that the parts are located near the jobs and in the vehicles of the technicians, so they have a van stock of critical parts so they can just do the job instead of constantly going back and forth to a warehouse.
It's incredible how many contracting groups, field service organizations will get an error code and order the 3 possible parts, shotgun those 3, use one, then do they fall out of inventory or whatever the case may be. And so there's not this kind of surgical ability to address a specific issue and know how things are truly performing. Yep. Well, we got 8 minutes and 46 seconds based on what that thing back there says. Love to take any questions you guys may have around any of this framework or what we talked about today. Yes.
Here you go.
I actually have 2 questions. I guess the first is, as it relates to kind of social media and how people use their devices in their personal time, are companies learning anything, and are they, I have a notion that we have to push things to people as opposed to having them pull things so that they kind of absorb things almost through osmosis, being around. That's kind of one question. The other question is, how are you all thinking? I think, Stu, you were talking about a Daikin platform. I'm curious about point tech solutions that enterprise companies maybe are thinking about. How do I pull in point solutions into a larger enterprise framework so that I can easily kind of swap things in or out and the experience is still seamless? And as I need more capability, I can buy that from someone who's developed it. I don't necessarily have to buy it in-house, but it comes into kind of a larger framework.
You guys want to take that one, or you want to this one?
Okay, I'll take the second one. So to scale this up, you have to take that data and put it into a warehouse and then turn it into usable knowledge. And XOI is a part of that. For anybody that has worked with a quant, that's a big part of that. And the value of that is it takes and gives that repeatable, measurable, dependable information and process. So a quant helps us build out a triage process on whether it's a Daikin piece of equipment or Train or Linux or one of the other 730 manufacturers. And that's built into an app that we're getting ready to release. But what allowed us to even do that was to get the data flowing in, take the technician experience, and say, when we had this issue, here's 2,500 technicians, 1,500 of them solved it this way, 100 solved it this way, and so on and so forth. And then we can actually aggregate back. So to Aaron's part, instead of shotgunning with, when that happens, it's 1 of 3 parts get all of them. We can statistically now look at it and say, the most likely cause is this, based on the experiences from the technician. But don't forget the low cost, simple, hit the easy button, check that one first. And so that reduces the inventory, reduces the time to resolution, And more importantly, it increases first-time fix. So when you do those things dependably for that technician, then they are a super happy camper. When they're happy campers, they want to give you more information, which kind of leads a little bit to the first part is technicians talk after hours. And one of the things through the app is we've got a feedback that we will hope the technicians, when they come up with great ideas, they want to put the great idea or the shortcut into our app and help us continue to build out that knowledge database. And they, with the XOI platform, they are really happy to put that into a recording so their customer sees it too. So there is a multitude of ways that you can do this. The whole thing is, it's the voice of the technician, and when they see it leveraged, they adopt and they get buy-in, and that just drives the re-engagement. It skyrockets.
Joe, you kind of thank you because you got a little more experience in this than I do. But we're doing a trial right now, and part of the trial we're learning is the techs are talking to each other about how to use the tools, and they help each other out even after hours, like you said. Mm-hmm. And I think it shows up in what we're going to have for results.
Mm-hmm. Agree. This is a topic I'm super passionate about. I think field service management solutions that have been built over the last 20 years have been really hard to integrate with and still are hard to integrate with. They've created this position that you, the customer, are relegated to my roadmap. I couldn't think any more different than that when I think about XOI. I think XOI is the offensive coordinator, quarterback's coach. Choose your head coach. I'm focused on your QB, your technician. And any other solution that wants attention from that tech, I can help facilitate. I'm not going to build all the things. So whether you work with XOI or any other company, I think it's silly that there's still companies out there that are like, just come to me when you need this thing. And I'm not going to integrate, or I'm your FSM, and I'm not going to integrate and play nice with anyone, because promise you, I'm building it. And it's like 2 years later, 3 years later, 4 years later, those businesses will not last, in my opinion. I think you need to be able to understand where your core is, understand what you're good at as a technology business, and leverage great technology partners to create a seamless experience for techs. So I would encourage you, no matter what you're looking at, to that to be kind of a precursor, because people are still playing arm's length, and I just don't think it's going to be a key to success. Technology is moving way too quick. Hopefully that's helpful. We're down to 2:50. 2 minutes and 50 seconds. Any other questions before we wrap up? Thank you guys for the great engagement so far. No? First afternoon coffee, here we come. Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.